Greetings, everyone out there. This morning, on the 17th of November 2021, the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs, Honorable Njabulo Nzuza, had an interview on Ukhozi FM, whose comments are now being interpreted differently by different people. It is already trending on social media. Honorable Njabulo Nzuza is the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs in South Africa, was being interviewed on the Zimbabwe exemption permits, which are set to expire on the 31st of December 2021. Some on social media are now saying he had said the permits are not going to be renewed until the court case, which we'll deal with later on, has been concluded. But let me quote what the minister said in isiZulu. I received an audio where he spoke in isiZulu. Let me quote. Siyazi i-Home Affairs ikhona i-submission eyisile ku-cabinet. Isinqumo asikathathwa ukuthi azo-extendwa loba kunzayenzakalani. Close quote. This is what the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs was quoted saying on Ukhozi FM. This in translation simply says, we know that the Home Affairs has made a submission to Cabinet and the decision has not been taken on whether the permits are going to be renewed or not. That's what the Deputy Minister said. The rest of the interview by the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs was then to explain, as I listened, the procedure on how one qualifies for a permanent residence. This was in response to those that approached the courts and asked the courts to compel the South African government to grant permanent residence to holders of ZEP. The Deputy Minister explained the Immigration Act Section 31, which I will quote what the Act says. The Immigration Act Section 31, bracket 2, bracket B says, I quote, the minister may grant a foreigner the rights of permanent residence for a specified or unspecified period when special circumstances exist which would justify such a decision, close quote. This is what the Act says. So the Deputy Minister this morning, after he had said a submission has been made to Cabinet and a no decision has yet been taken on whether the ZEP will be renewed or not. He then went to clarify the procedure for one to qualify to be a permanent resident in South Africa. We will know that Darlington Chihuta, representing a group of Zimbabweans, or is a leader or claims to be a leader or is a leader of a group of Zimbabweans that are holders of ZEP, Darlington Chihuta, and his the people that he proposed to represent or he represents, approached the advocate Simba Chitando to approach the South African courts, the High Court in Gauteng, to compel the South African government to grant permanent residence to holders of ZEP. You will recall that when this was made, we did spend time in this platform on YouTube, about 30 minutes or so, explaining why ourselves we prefer negotiations over going the court route. As the Immigration Act says, which I quoted, that it is the minister who grants such permanent residents. And the deputy minister this morning was explaining that according to them and their understanding of the law, I mean, law is interpreted differently. I'm not a lawyer, but according to their understanding, which of course I agree with him, says there is no law which says grant a group of people permanent residence. It is only done on case by case basis. When we made our own submission for the granting of permanent residence, we did so believing in negotiations, that this can be negotiated, as was the case in 1995. We're drawing our experiences from 1995 when those that had South African IDs were granted permanent residence. You will recall that there are many that benefited from that scheme who today carry an ID written country of origin Zimbabwe. And they will always say these are the Mandela IDs. So drawing from that experience, it was on the basis of that, aware that it is only cabinet or the minister that can grant permanent residence. That we made a request that the holders should be of ZEP should be granted permanent residence. And we said in our submission, if for one reason or another, the permanent residence cannot be granted, they should, in our view, and as per request, grant a long-term visa, which is 10 years. And again, in our submission, we said, if that again is not acceptable, we then requested a normal renewal, which is 4 years, 3 years or 4 years, but we said 4 years. Because we did not think that going to court was the best route. Again, in the interview that the minister did this morning, in the same line where he had said a submission has been made, my understanding of the interview, when he was then giving details on or explaining the procedure of one being granted a permanent residence, he said they have opposed the application for permanent residence as submitted in the High Court in Gauteng. And he said in the interview this morning that he cannot comment further because of the issues before the courts. That is our understanding, or that is at least how I understood the interview by the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. The Deputy Minister of Home Affairs also used the figures which were thrown around by the media, or which were quoted by Advocate Simba when he submitted the papers, that 250 ZEP holders. But we all know that there's no 250 ZEP holders. Because in 2010, 295,000 made applications for Documentation Zimbabwe Project DZP. 245,000 in 2010 were granted DZP. 2014, 2017, 198,000 had applied to renew the what was then known as Zimbabwe Special Permit ZSP, which is now ZEP. In the process, some were rejected for one reason or another. So it is safe to say it is less than 198,000 who are holders of a ZEP. It is not 250. So the Deputy Minister was quoting the figure that was submitted in court papers, I would presume. Now, What this then means in our understanding, as the Deputy Minister clarified, is that the South African Cabinet is considering the submission by the Department of Home Affairs. The Deputy Minister did not say in the interview that because of the court application, the Department of Home Affairs has now withdrawn the submission submitted to Cabinet. He did not say that. Had the Deputy Minister in the interview this morning said that given the new developments for those that have gone to court, the Department of Home Affairs has withdrawn its submission to Cabinet pending the court outcome. This will be a different ballgame altogether. This will mean everything is on standstill until the court process concludes its business. And the Deputy Minister did not say so. When Advocate Simba Chitanda went to court, our members asked us to engage him and those that had approached him. I want to explain this in simple terms. When we saw Advocate Simba Chitando on ENCA, we had no intention to approach him on the basis that our understanding is that an advocate does not deal directly with the clients, that there ought to be an attorney who instructs the advocate. So our interest was to engage Comrade Darlington Chihuta, who is a member of the MDC Alliance. I'm saying this so that we clarify these issues. Who is a member of the MDC Alliance? I don't know what position he holds in the MDC Alliance, but is a member of the MDC Alliance in South Africa. We made contact with Comrade Darlington Chihuta. While we were in the process of arranging a meeting, it was then brought to our attention that Advocate Simba Chitando is the chairman of ZANU-PF in Sandton, Johannesburg. We then said, no. We then needed to get clarity to understand if Advocate Simba Chitando was acting on behalf of his party, ZANU-PF, or was acting on behalf of his clients, in this case, Darlington Chihuta and his grouping. We then, on the 25th of October, 2021, met with the leadership of ZANU-PF in South Africa. It was after their anti-sanction march in Pretoria. We met with them to understand from their point of view why ZANU-PF in South Africa will approach the courts to compel the South African government to grant permanent residence permits to ZEP holders as opposed to negotiations. In the meeting with the ZANU-PF leadership, it was made clear to us that there was no such instruction from the party. And I'm saying so because most of the ZANU-PF leadership that we met are holders of ZEP permits. They were actually worried that what will happen to them if the permits are not renewed. So yes, Advocate Simba Chitando is the chairman of ZANU-PF in South Africa, but ZANU-PF members that we met are worried that the permits might not be renewed because of the actions of one of their members who they say acted outside the instruction of the party. He acted in his professional capacity. We, of course, then sought to have discussions with the advocate Simba Chitando. We did have a meeting with him, as was the request by our members. But unfortunately, in the meeting, yes, there was a meeting of minds in the meeting. We raised our concerns about the manner in which this whole issue has been handled, that he is filing or approaching the courts. His media interviews have caused a backlash in social media in particular. Those of you who follow Twitter would understand what is currently happening on Twitter. So we had a progressive discussion with Advocate Simba Chitando. Unfortunately, it would be a betrayal of trust on my part to then divulge what we discussed with him. But I will only say in the discussion that we had, there was a meeting of minds with Advocate Simba. If I then divulge what we discussed, in my view, it will be a betrayal of trust as per the discussion that we're having. And in future, if a person shares with you certain things in confidence, and then I publish them, there's obviously going to be a loss of confidence. Just like we had a meeting with Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Mtsweledi, on the 5th of December 2019, as part of the leadership of the African Diaspora Forum. The minister was very progressive. We discussed the future of the holders of ZEP. We discussed the whole question of migration in South Africa. Again, the minister was very progressive. And for me, again, to share the details that we discussed with the minister, it would be a betrayal of trust. We also had discussions with the ANC leadership. They expressed their views, we expressed our views, and we agreed that we'll continue talking. So based on the discussions that we had with the minister on the 5th of December 2019 in his offices, discussions that we had had with the political leadership in the African National Congress, and also the policy unit of the ANC as a department, we did not think that we needed to approach the courts. So as I conclude, I see there are a lot of issues that are circulating, lot of posts that are circulating, that the South African cabinet, two issues are circulating. One, that the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs this morning on Ukhozi FM said ZEP permits are not going to be renewed. And I've quoted what the Deputy Minister said. The second one that is circulating, which were now being bombarded on our inboxes, is that the South African government has extended these permits to 5 years. We know nothing of that. As we have said, any decision to be made, it is going to be announced by the South African government. Whether the cabinet will ask the Minister of Home Affairs to announce, or whoever will be representing the South African cabinet will make that decision or will make that announcement once a decision is made. So like we requested again last week, if you receive information relating to the permits, the first thing that you need to do, just visit the website of Home Affairs. The Home Affairs, they put out their statements. If the statement is not in the website of the Home Affairs, just ignore. Don't even ask me. Don't even send me to my inbox to say, Comrade Mapena, we are told these permits have been extended for 5 years. Can you confirm? I can't confirm anything that is not in the website of the Home Affairs. I am Njabulo Nicholas Mapena. I'm the chairman of the Zimbabwe community in South Africa, executive member of the African Diaspora Forum, and general secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party. Please like the video, circulate, subscribe, write your comments. Thank you. Bye-bye.